Welcome, guys. Pretty exciting. Another episode of The Running Journey. I'm Rob Tatro. It's my brother, Charlie. And today is probably, I was just telling this guest off screen, we've never had a guest like this on our show. So we've never had, I'd say, someone of your caliber, of your background, that's accomplished what you've accomplished. I will note Phil Gore is our guest. Phil Gore, one of the all-time former world record holder in the backyard and all-time top few people that have ever done the most number of yards, as they call them, in the backyard. He's also quite an accomplished 24-hour runner, 48-hour runner. I believe you do the 6-day as well, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty much everything.
Well, I haven't actually done a 48 or a 6-day, so it's the
Okay.
backyards and the 24 hours.
Okay, well, I know that you just came back from Thailand. I believe it is Thailand, and you just came back Taiwan, and you did 270 plus kilometers in 24 hours on a track. So, Phil Gore, thanks for agreeing to be here. Welcome to The Running Journey.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're in Perth right now?
Yes, correct.
All right, so it would be morning over there. It's evening for us out here. When did you start running? What's the Phil Gore story? When did you have your first itch to go out and run?
My very first time I started running was really in high school. I'm just doing the school cross country and athletics, and that was nothing really over. Athletics was 800 and 1500 meters. Cross country was anywhere between, say, 2 and 6 kilometers. I'd do the occasional fun run, which was up to 12 kilometers. So that's kind of where my running started, but I never really got into the big distances. It wasn't until 2014. So when I was 28, kind of got back into running and just started doing 5Ks a day. And I just wanted to see how long I could do that for. Just every single day, getting out there and running at least 5 kilometers. And it kind of just, grew from there. And then 2019, I did my first ultra, which was a 12-hour race. And then 18 months after that, I did my first backyard. And I did 39 hours in that first backyard. And that's kind of, I think that first backyard, that was where I really kind of got the feeling that this is something I might be good at. This is something I want to explore a bit more and see how far I can push myself in these sort of really, really long races. So, just kind of focused on that a bit more and changed a lot of my my habits and things like that about just to see how much I could push my potential.
So I got a question about that first one. So I did see there's a documentary about it. I don't know if you must have seen it, anyways. Obviously, and at the end, the other guys kind of just you're the last two, right, in that one, and the other guys kind of just waiting for you to. It was your first one, right? So. You lasted how did you last so long? It seemed like you were so mentally tough in that one. You lasted so long. You were down to the last two, and that other guy was just kind of hoping you would eventually, he was just waiting for you to drop, but it took you a while. You stayed in there for quite a while. Is that kind of when you started thinking you might be good at this, or what about it made you think that you might become good at this specific sport?
Yeah, so that very first one I went into, I didn't really have much of an expectation of how far I could go. I thought I could get to 24 hours and I was just going to kind of hang on and see how long I could stay. And after that, it was never I want to get to 24 hours and then that's it, I'll stop. But I just never thought that I would be in the top two. Probably didn't even think I'd be in the top 5 or top 10 even. There are a lot of accomplished ultra runners in that race as well. And so when I'm up, in that race running against them and these guys who have done so many more ultras than me and have got a really good running resume. They're dropping out and I'm still going. I'm thinking, how am I still here? Like maybe this is something I'd be good at. And yeah, I got to the end. So I finished second in that one. I was absolutely destroyed. And I just thought, I kind of went into this and just kind of winged it. Like I didn't have a proper plan or strategy. It was just kind of a let's see how I go kind of thing. And I thought, if I do come in with a strategy, if I do come in like with a proper training block, I do focus on stuff like the mindset and the nutrition and the training, um, little tweaks I can make in my organization and planning and all that. If I do focus on all of these things, how much further can I go? And yeah, that's kind of when I started, focusing on those things. And then, so when I went into my next backyard, I was a lot more prepared. I had a detailed plan. I'd been working with a coach, um, and I was just a lot more focused on it. And then, yeah, that next one I went into, I won with 48 hours. So another 9 hours on top of what I'd done before. At the time, that was a new Australian record. And then, yeah, it was just a great feeling winning that and just knowing that all of that work I'd put into it, all of that training, all of those adjustments and stuff that I'd made, had paid off and it had worked. And it was just a matter of fine tuning it from that point. I'm like, okay, I've got a system that worked. Let's go into the next one. Let's use this system again. Are there any tweaks we need to make to it? And yeah, just every kind of backyard since then, I've changed little things and I've learned from each one and got it to the system that I've got today where it helps me get into those 4-day plus sort of area.
So,
Unbelievable.
so I get the sense that this backyard ultra sport is a sport where the more you do it, the better you get at it. Like I get the sense that you guys learn something new every time, and just having gone through the experience of it just makes you so much more ready for the next time you do it. So am I accurate with my perception there? And because I see these other guys and the numbers getting higher every time. So I guess two parts to the question: am I accurate in seeing that, and how high could the number go?
Yeah, definitely. The more you do it, the more experience you get, the better you're going to be able to do. You're going to make mistakes in races and you learn from those mistakes, and you're also going to try new things in races and realize that that's something that really works well. So let's just keep doing that. But also, it's the mental thing of knowing that you've done that distance before, like lining up at your first backyard ultra, and you might have not have ran anything more than 24 hours before, and it's very hard for your mind to comprehend doing a distance bigger than that, and you don't know how you're going to go until you actually get there. But when you've done a few of them and you've done 48 hours and 72 hours and 96 hours, and you know what it's like at that point, and you know that you've done that before, you know that your body and your mind is physically capable of doing it. It just makes it easier. Like it gives you that confidence. When you're in a race and you might be having a rough time at like 48 hours and you just think, well, hang on, no, I've been here before. I've got through things like this before and I've still gone on to do, 72 or 96 hours or whatever it is. So just having that knowledge, it just really helps you keep going when, if that's the first time you'd encountered it, it might make it really easy to quit or to drop out or to just be satisfied with getting to that point. But yeah, if I'm in a race and I'm having a hard time at 48 hours and, I'm not going to be thinking I've done a really good distance if I drop out at that point. So I've got no choice. I have to keep going. I'm going to really regret dropping out if I do at that point. Whereas someone who might have only done 24 hours before and now they're at 48 hours and they're, really struggling and they end up dropping out, they could be really satisfied with having that number because it's double what they've done before. But then the next time they go into it, are they going to be satisfied if they get to 48 hours? Like they're going to get to that point and want to keep going. So it's the sort of event where you just always want to keep improving, and
I knew,
just
I
having that
knew,
experience helps you go further.
I knew I should have done 100-miler in training, but anyways.
What was the progression for you? Do you mind just talking about your progression real quick? So you did high 30s, then you did 48, then you did.
Yeah, so my first one was 39, then I went to do 48, which was the Australian record. Um, and then I kind of like was pushing up the Australian record a little bit each time. So I think went to 51, then to 54. And then there was another guy over East, a guy called Ryan Crawford. He came and beat my record, and he got 59. But then the next race we were both in together, which was the Australian Satellite Championships 2 years ago. So then, we both went and raced in that, and we pushed it up to. So he got 75 and I got 76. So I grabbed the Australian record back. And then from 76, the next jump was to 102, and that's when I'd done the world record. So that's my current PB, which is it's still an Australian record, but the world record has since surpassed that. So the world record is now at 110. But I have done a 100-yard and a 96-yard event since then.
So that's over 4 days for those counting at home. Over 4 days. So that means you're doing it 4 nights because 4 full days. And it also, I think there's only 5 people that have broken 100, if I'm not mistaken.
It might be a little bit more now.
3 Belgium
So
guys.
there's the 3 Belgians who have got the world record.
Yeah.
So they're all joined on 110. Yep. Ehor, the Canadian. Harvey Lewis has done 108.
Okay.
Bartos has done 103. And I think, Sam Harvey from New Zealand's done 101. And I think there might be a couple. I think there's another Belgian on 100.
Okay, but regardless, you had the world record. You were the best on the planet at this. Charlie's question was, how high do you think it could go?
Yeah, I always get maybe like and it's hard to know. Like saying that there were 3 Belgians that got to 110, and they chose to stop together. It wasn't like they just, they couldn't go any further. Like they could have gone further.
If there would have been more of a competition, like where they weren't teammates.
If they did that until there actually was only one person standing, then they were all competitive against each other. Like who knows how far that could have gone? Like I think 120 would have been easy. 150 possible.
Wow.
But it's just we just don't know until we get there. Like when I write my plan for these, my plan goes up to a week's worth, 7 days, and not because I think that's where I'm going to get to, but I just need to have it at such an extreme number that I'm never going to reach the end of my plan.
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about that, not having making sure that you're not satisfied with a number, right? That's an important thing.
Yeah, you can't just say when I hit 30 I'm good, or 24 is good, or 48 is good, because that's when you drop, right? That's when you drop at that number.
Yeah, so don't have a time-based or distance-based goal in your head, because I see it a lot of times. People are like, oh, I want to get to 24 hours, but I will keep going after that, but I want to at least get 24 hours. Then they get to 24 hours, they might be having a hard time, and they'll be like, you know what? I said I'd be happy if I got to 24 hours, so I'll drop out now. And then the next day they're like, oh, I should have kept going. So if you just don't have that goal, your goal should just be to stay in as long as you can. You got to stay in the game as long as possible. So even if you get to 24 hours and you're feeling like rubbish, and you just think, well, you know what, I could do one more, let's go and do one more. Then you finish that lap, and then you reevaluate again and go, can I do one more?
Okay, so let's talk about this amazing success, the winner of this race in Taiwan. I read the story on Instagram. I followed your story on Instagram, so I know the story, but let's talk about that. Do you mind sharing this story? No. So this is a 24-hour race. It's in Taiwan.
Yeah.
You're flying in there. It's some sort of pro-am, so you're running with, I think, amateurs, if I'm not mistaken.
No, so it's an invitational. So it's elite runners from around the world. And then a lot of local Taiwanese runners there as well. So it's a good mix. But there are you know, you've got top runners from USA, Spain, Japan, Malaysia. There are quite a few different countries there.
So you got invited to go here as one of the
Yeah,
top
yeah,
in the world.
yeah.
And I know you said your PB was 270, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
265. So I did 265 earlier in April this year.
Okay. Which, for those counting at home, that 264 is 11 kilometers per hour nonstop for 24 hours. 11 kilometers an hour, which is 5.5 minute kilometers every minute of the day, every hour of the day for an entire day. It blows my mind. Like, I know these numbers are high, but it's so impressive. So anyways, you're flying into Taiwan, and then you probably had a plan. Did you have a number in mind that you wanted to beat?
Yeah, well, I I did have a plan, but because I'd only just done the backyard satellite champs like 5 weeks prior, and so I'd done like 96 hours at that event, and so 5 weeks, it's like I did feel like I'd recovered in time. You know, I'd done a good training block, but I was nowhere near like at my peak, or like I shouldn't have been at my peak, because normally a race like this I want at least a 12-week training block. You know, I'd be proper recovered and all of that going into it. So I never actually went in with the intention of trying to beat my PB, because when I got that PB, I just felt like I was in prime condition. You know, and there was just a lot of factors towards me getting a really good result that time. Like you know, it was in my home country. You know, I had crew that I was familiar with. I had the good training block, all of that. So for me to go into this race and go, oh, I'm going to beat what I did in April when everything lined up, I just thought that was a bit unrealistic, because yeah, um, I didn't think I was in that same
Well,
condition. So
Charlie and I, we do a half marathon, and we're like 4 weeks out. We're like, no, we gotta, like, we're not ready to do it. You did 400 miles, 400
yeah,
miles you did, or just a little bit, so like 600 and whatever kilometers. And 4 weeks
yeah,
later, you're out doing a 24-hour race.
yeah, yeah.
I get why you felt you weren't rested.
Yeah. So I did, yeah, I had a much more conservative goal. It was in the 250s. And then I started running, and I was sticking to my plan, following, like I was on target to get, I think it was like 257. And you know, everything was going really well, and I was like 10 hours into it. My body's feeling great. I haven't got any niggles. You know, I'm managing to hold the pace with no dramas. And then I just started thinking to myself, why am I coming here like all the way to Taiwan just to go and do, like, you know, run for 24 hours, but not even try and get a PB? Like, you know, why am I going to finish and get like, you know, 7K short? Like, why don't I just, you know, I'm here now. I've started it. I'm feeling good. Why don't I just try and push this a bit more? And you know what? If I push it and I aim for a bigger number and I don't get it and I fail, well, you know, at least I'll learn something from that. And, um, you know, I still would have given it a good effort. So, uh, yeah, 10 hours into it, I took a risk and I changed my plan, which is completely unlike me, because I normally go in with a plan and I just follow it to the letter, and, you know, everything all seems to work out, and I don't like to deviate from my plan too much. But yeah, so 10 hours into it, and I'm thinking about adding, yeah, like an extra 10 Ks to my goal, which is a big deal in a 24-hour race, to add 10 Ks to your plan. But then to do that when you're already 10 hours in, which, you know, that only leaves me 14 hours to make this distance up. And I said to myself, if I can get to 135 Ks by 12 hours, so I had like another 2 hours, then, you know, the second half, I'm only going to have to do 130 or 131 Ks to get to my PB. And that kind of it sounded like a stretch, but it also sounded like it was possible. So I kind of stuck with that up. I had the pace that I needed to do. I got to 12 hours and I was 135.1 kilometers. And I'm like, well, looks like I'm going for this PB now. And yeah,
love
so
it.
then I did the maths while I'm running around doing all the maths to work out, what pace I need to run at to get that 131. I actually was going to, I was aiming for, I worked it out that I was going to get 168, sorry, 268, because that would give me like a 2K buffer. Like if I had to stop for 2Ks worth for, toilet stops or change shoes or any of that, or if my pace slows down towards the end, if I'm going for 268 and I lose 2Ks, I'll get 266 and that's still a PB. So I kind of went in with that pace. And yeah, as I got towards the end, I didn't need to have any of those extended stops. My pace didn't slow down. I was still running really well. And I got to that last hour and I was on 258 with an hour to go. And then I thought, like, I wonder if I can get 270 here. And it's like, I had another 12, so that would give me another 12 Ks to do in an hour. And I'm like, that's 5-minute Ks. I'm not running at that pace. That's going to be a little bit too fast. So I put 270 out of my mind. I'm like, I'm not going to get that, but let's just push as hard as I can go. And, I'll get in the high 260s. So I'm thinking 268, maybe 269. And then 23 hours and 10 minutes into the race, my watch died. And so I'm not tracking my pace anymore.
50 minutes left.
Yeah, 50 minutes to go. I'm not tracking my pace anymore. There's no point trying to stop and figure out my watch because there's only 50 minutes to go. So I took my watch off, gave it to my crew so I'm not distracted by trying to deal with that. And I just kept going. And I actually increased the pace a little bit because it's like, well, I need to make sure I'm not going too slow. So let's just push a little bit harder so I know that I'm at least getting the minimum pace that I need. And I just kept going around. And then as I'm getting towards the end, like I don't have my watch, but I can see on the leaderboard as I pass, it tells me every time I pass the starting mat what my distance is. And I can see the big clock at the top. And I'm working it out. And I'm like, hang on, I am on track for 270 here. So let's just keep going. I kept pushing it. And yeah, I got to 270 with just under 4 minutes to spare. And then, still had time for 2 more laps to get 270.8. And yeah, it just goes to show, I mean, it's good. Like, I like having the watch there to know I'm in the right zone and all that. But at the end, I think that watch was going to be limiting me. I would have been looking at that watch running at like less than 5 minutes per K. And I would have been thinking, hang on, I'm going too fast here. I have to slow down because otherwise I'm going to bonk out in this last hour and I don't want that. But yeah, not having my brain limited by seeing those numbers on the watch, I was just able to run to feel and to just keep going and to end up getting 270. So I look at it in hindsight. Yes, it was frustrating that my watch died and, I don't have the full distance on my Strava and all that, but in the end, like I
You're
ended
over
up
it.
running
You're
faster
probably
than
over
what
it.
I would have anyway. Yeah.
So I
yeah.
feel like that's like how that's an example of really like when you're finishing a race and you have, it's like the most extreme example because it's such a long race, but like you just got to do it by feel at the end. I think like you just, so anyways, you crushed it. That's amazing. How does it work? Like, do you just do laps? Is that, and then you can get people are giving you nutrition on the way, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it's on a 400-meter loop, just like a normal athletics track. And you just run laps and, so I have all my nutrition. It's all written out on a plan. So my crew know exactly what time, what food they need to pass me.
Yeah.
So as it gets to that point, they'll kind of get like a 1-lap warning or a 2-lap warning. They'll have the food ready. And then I'll just say, next lap I'll grab it. So run past and they kind of hold it out and I just run past and I grab it without even kind of breaking stride. Like I don't stop to grab it. It's just grab it on the move. And then I've got a very systematic walking pattern as well. So like in the first 6 hours, I'm walking for 2 minutes every half hour. The next 6 hours, I'm walking for 1.5 minutes every 20 minutes. And in the last 12 hours, I'm walking for 1 minute every 15 minutes. So
and what's
I kind of time.
How'd you figure that part out?
So I worked with my coach who suggested that. And I kind of did a few test runs with that strategy. And I just found out it worked really well. Like I'd done my first 24-hour track ultra, I had a run walk pattern, but it was like run for 3 hours, walk for 400 meters. And by the end, like I ended up walking the last 3 hours or something just because I'd burnt my body out too much. So
Is it for the
introducing
lactic
those,
acid? Is it to remove the lactic acid?
I don't, it's just to break it up a bit more, I think, to use those different muscles. Yeah, give the heart rate a chance to come back down, and also just mentally like breaking it up into those smaller chunks. It's
Yeah.
the whole thing about how do you eat an elephant, like one bite at a time. So I'm never thinking about running 24 hours. I'm thinking I've got to run for 28 minutes before my next walk break, or I'm running for 14 minutes before my next walk break. So I just break it up like that. But yeah, anyway,
So
back to the nutrition.
go ahead.
So when I'd have my walk breaks, I would grab the food just before I'm going to start my walk break, and then as I'm walking, I'm eating as I'm walking. So I'm never stopping to eat or any of that. I've got it all planned out so that when I grab it, is kind of just before that walk break, and
Oh,
so
so you
that way I'm
time it,
not
you
really
time it,
wasting any
you
time.
time it with the walk breaks, so it's
Yeah,
easier
yeah,
to
exactly.
take. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
Wow,
I
that's
think
genius.
the other important lesson there, one obviously is the end, right? Go by feel. Charlie's a big feel guy, my brother Charlie. But I think the other lesson, man, when you first started telling the story, and you said, why set goal? Why limit myself? Why limit myself to this 260 whatever number? Even though you're mid race, like I came here. Like remove the loser talk from your mind, right? Remove your own personal limit. That those are our biases, and those are in the way a lot of times. That's the lesson I gather from what you said is remove those biases, remove those obstacles, and just go out and perform, and don't doubt yourself. Believe that you can do it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then like you're never going to know how far you can go unless you try. Like when
Yeah.
I was at that point, when I was in those first 10 hours, and I was feeling really confident, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be able to get 257. Like I'm feeling it really good. You know, my plan with my pacing, I plan to start a bit quicker, and then I plan to kind of slow down. So, um, as I'm running in that first 10 hours, and I'm thinking, I'm still going to slow down more after this. Like this is going to be really achievable. And then I'm like, would I be satisfied coming all this way to just go and do 257? Like if I was really struggling, and I'd realized that maybe I hadn't recovered from that satellite champs, and I'm still feeling that 400 miles in my legs. 257, that might have been a really good achievement. Like it wouldn't have been a PB, but to kind of do that in the condition I was in might have been a really good result. But when I was there and I was feeling good, I'm like, I don't want to just come in at 257 and just have achieved that really easily. I want something that I've actually had to push myself and actually had to work to try and get. So that's why I was like, let's push this a bit more. And it's like I was like, even if I push too hard and I blow up and I fail, and I might end up coming in less than 257. It's like, well, at least I gave it a shot. At least I didn't just settle for something mediocre. I actually went out there and I tried, and I try to do something different. So yeah, it's just and some, I don't know. I kind of look back on it as well, and I wonder, because I was so conservative in those first 10 hours, and I wasn't trying to push a really big PB, is that something that kind of helped me in the second half? Like I
Yeah.
found the second half easier because I had been so conservative. Or if I had gone for a bigger target, like say I'd gone for 275, for example, and because if I could do an extra 10 hours in the last 14 hours, then maybe I could have done an extra 5Ks in the first 10. But these are just all unknowns.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
I
did a
think
negative.
I think you nailed it. I think you did it
Yeah,
perfectly. I
Dude,
think it
you
helped
did a
you.
negative on a 24-hour race. That's
yeah,
That's
only
crazy.
just.
That's yeah. Yeah, but it's perfect.
Yeah,
you talk about I never think I'm doing a 24-hour race. I think I'm doing 15 minutes till my next minute of walking or whatever. That reminds me a lot of
yeah,
our Canadian hero Terry Fox, who every time he was
yeah,
running across Canada, I'm leading into a question about your run. You spent a lot of time with the gentleman that ran around Australia, but he never said, "Oh, I have to run across Canada." Terry Fox, he did it on one leg. He had cancer survivor, ran on one leg, ran across the entire country, 8,000 kilometers, 7,800 kilometers. He didn't make it all the way because he died of cancer, but he would always say, to the next pole, to the curve, to the hay bale over there, to the cow. Like he would just, that's how he broke down running across Canada. So you've got experience in running so you did I think you did 7.5 weeks. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was about that. Yeah, I think with Sean Bell.
Yeah, with Sean. And how did that? What did you learn from that? What was the number one lesson you learned from running?
The way he did it was he broke it down into. So first of all, he's like breaking it down into each day. So each day is like, I've got to do 84 Ks, and then that 84 Ks that gets broken up into like 8K segments. So at the start of the day, we'd drop him off at the start, and then would drive ahead. Well, the first leg was 6Ks. Then the next leg would be 7Ks, and then after that it'll be 8K. So it's just breaking it up into those chunks. And he's just stopping each time and, refueling, changing shoes or any of that if he needs to. And yeah, even within those 8K chunks, he would be breaking it down again into, I've just got to, same sort of thing, I guess, like I've got to get to that next bend in the road or get to that next light post or whatever it is. And it's like that, I think, with a lot of ultras. Like the backyards is a perfect one for it because you just break it down into each lap. That's all you got to do is just focus on that one lap, and you get through that one lap, then you worry about the next one. But yeah, definitely learn a lot from running with Sean. A lot of stuff that I've applied to my own running, even just like little things about, stuff to have for nutrition. Like he was eating a lot of like ice cream and Cocoa Pops and Sun-Kissed and all of this stuff. And it's just stuff that I've never thought of eating. And I'm like, well, why don't I have that? And then, this backyard ultra I did recently.
Chocolate milk and Cocoa
chocolate
Puffs.
milk with Cocoa Pops. Yeah. So we're just trying to get him as many calories as we can, and we're giving him Cocoa Pops with milk, and then it's like, well, hang on, why don't we give him chocolate milk? There's more calories in that. And then it's like, well, hang on, why stop there? Let's put some M&Ms and some chocolate topping in there as well. And yeah, so there were like all these different ways of trying to get extra calories into him. And I was having Cocoa Pops with chocolate milk on my backyard, and it just worked really well. And yeah,
really?
just other things like, just learning the value of running slow as well. He was, he's doing 84 Ks a day. He's probably doing it anywhere between sort of 12 and 14 hours. So he's not moving at a quick pace. Like if he was to just be running in an 84K race, he wouldn't be winning it. He'd be towards the back with the pace that he's doing. But he was just consistent with it. He's like, you run slow, but he's just consistent. He knows that he's going to get that 84 Ks done on that day. And it's great for the backyard because you don't need to run fast in the backyard either. You just need to run fast enough to get it in under the hour. There's laps where I will run faster because I want to get more sleep and things like that. But it's just about, it's a whole thing about conserving energy. Like if you're going to run flat out, you're going to burn yourself out. So you need to find that middle ground where you're fast enough to finish the lap in the time that you need, but you're not going too fast that you're burning yourself out.
I have a bit of a theory on backyards. Maybe I'd like to hear what you think, but I think a lot of people it's really good for people that might want to do their first 100-miler to do a backyard or because I feel like it just forces people to pace themselves a little bit better. And so I don't know what you think. Like I think it's helping people achieve things that they may not have thought they could do. But
yeah, it's a very good entry level ultra because even if you've only done like a marathon before and you just you can just go in, don't have a goal in mind, but you might get to that marathon and you'll be feeling good. So it's like, well, let's go for another lap, and you know that might end up getting you to 100 k's, and then you're like, well, you're at 100 k's and you're still feeling good. Let's go for 100 miles. So instead of thinking at the start, oh, am I going to sign up for a marathon? Am I going to sign up for a 100k race? Am I going to sign up for a 100 miler? Like, what is the distance that I can do? You can just sign up for a backyard, and then you can just kind of tick off those milestones as you go. You get to that marathon and you think, well, I can keep going. So you don't really have to pick the distance that you want to try for until you're actually in it and you see how far you can get. But yeah, it's a really the way the format is designed is it does break it up into those chunks for you. So when I talk about doing the 24-hour and I'm breaking it up into those 15-minute chunks, that's a conscious decision by me. Like, I purposely do that with my plan. Whereas with the backyard, that's the format. It breaks out for you. So even if you wanted to do it a different way, you couldn't. So you don't need to think about making that conscious decision. You just go with how the format is. You run that, you run that 1 hour, and then you rest and you go do the next one. I mean, obviously there's things about you've got to play around with what pace during that lap is going to work best for you. Like, how much run time do you want compared to how much rest time? There's things like that to play with, but at the end of the day, you're just running 6.7 k's per hour, and it's broken up into those things for you. You've got your aid station every hour, whereas you sign up for other point to points, you might be 2, 3, 4 hours at a time without an aid station, and you need to carry all your food with you. The other thing it does is it takes navigation out of the equation. So you hear so many point-to-point races where people get lost and they end up doing an extra 5Ks or 20Ks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this one, as long as you do that first lap and you don't get lost on that first lap, then you should know the course for the rest of the race. You don't need to refer to maps or anything. Not to say people haven't taken wrong turns in backyards, because it has happened, and people get delirious towards the end and might get a bit confused and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're very easy courses to navigate. You've always got a lot of other people around you to support you. Whereas you do a 100-miler, you might be on your own for 20 hours. You might do the whole race and only see one or two other people the whole time. Whereas this, at the start of every hour, you're all together again. Everyone who's still standing is all running together again. So you can run with different people on different laps, and it can be very social. In my opinion, it's a very good, entry level ultra. Like, for your first, if you want to really try and push your distance and see how far you can go, and you're a bit overwhelmed of signing up for a 100k or a 100-miler, just sign up for a backyard, because then you don't have to run 100k's, you just have to run 6.7. And then once you've done that 6.7, you go and do another 6.7, and you just keep going. And then, before you know it, you have ticked off that 100k's or 100 miles or even more.
And it'll naturally push you to your limit, because if you can't do 4 miles in an hour, you're probably done in an ultra too, right? You're probably pulling out of that race. Like, you're not going to sit down for 2 hours in an ultra and then try to regroup. So if you're not able to do 4 miles, you're probably done.
Yes and no. So with the backyard, you have to do that 4 miles in that hour, and if you don't, then you're out. So that's probably the downside of the backyard, is you don't get that extra time to rest. Whereas if you do a 100-miler and you're really struggling, you can stop and you can have a nap for like 2 or 3 hours, and then get up and be like, I'm feeling good, let's keep going. So you can have those longer breaks. So that's probably the downside of it, is you are very confined by that time, and you can come in, you might only have 1 minute spare, and you've got 1 minute to grab your nutrition, your hydration, all the stuff you need to do, and then you're going out again. So but I like it because it purposely, it breaks it down into those chunks, and it'll slow you down. So people can get carried away in these point to points and be feeling good at the start and be like, oh, I'm feeling good, let's try go a bit faster and see if I can take an hour off my time at the end. Whereas with this, it's like, well, I'm feeling good, but if I go faster, it's not going to give me any benefit. I'm not going to get to 100 miles any quicker. It's going to take me 24 hours to get to 100 miles, whether I'm running at 4-minute pace now or 7-minute pace. So let's just do the conservative thing and the safe thing, and go with the easier pace and have it easier on the body.
What's the fastest lap you've ever done in a backyard, and what's the slowest? Curious.
The slowest would be like 58 or 59, and that would have been my last lap, I think.
In your first one?
Yeah. So yeah, the last lap in my first ever backyard was, I think, 58.5 minutes.
Yeah, that one I think it was in the documentary. Yeah, that one I saw.
Yeah. And then I think the only other time that I've DNF'd was at Big's backyard, where my last lap, it would have been about the same. It would have been about 58 minutes. But then I did start the next lap, and got halfway through and ended up taking a shortcut back because I was at a point
I saw this too. I saw this documentary too.
Pack it in. It's quicker.
No, but you were like delusional, right? Like you were like, you didn't know where you were, right?
Well, I did and I didn't. Like I knew I was in the race. I knew like where I was on the course. So,
but you thought you were like at a festival or something. You said.
Yeah. So when I came back to the village, so I took a shortcut back. So I came off the course. But where I was on the course, I had no idea where that was in relation to the finishing area. So when I came back, I came in from like a different angle to the finishing area than what I'd normally seen. And all I see is like these tents and people setting up tents or pulling down tents. And because I didn't think I was back at the finish village yet, I'm like, oh, okay, there's like a music festival happening. Like people are setting up tents. But then as I got closer, I realized, oh no, hang on, this is the place where I'm meant to be. Like this is the finish area. It just looks different.
Have you had hallucinations? Sorry, Charlie also asked you about your fastest lap, but I want
to. Okay, so the fastest lap, I did a 28-minute lap.
Jeez.
Once, and that was on my last lap because I knew. So I started the lap.
You knew you had one.
I knew I had one left. So I started the lap. I was with another runner. We got like, I don't know, 100 meters down the road, and the other runners turned to me and he's like, "I'm not going to do this lap. I can't go anymore." And I've stopped and I've like had a chat with him. I'm trying to get him to do one more lap. I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, awesome. "No, I can't do it. I'm done. Like I've been struggling for too long." So I was like, "Okay, no worries. I'll see you later." And I just sprinted that last lap because I was just
that must have felt so good, eh? That must have felt so good.
Gonna win it. Yeah.
That was actually
also,
one of
like,
my questions. Actually one of my questions. Sorry. Like, how does it feel once you know you've won the thing? Like, it must be just that surreal feeling. I don't know. Like once you know the last guy's out.
Well, sometimes you know, and then sometimes you don't. So there's been a few where I've finished the lap, not, thinking that the other guy is still running the lap behind me somewhere. But yeah, I've come across the line and it's like, oh, you've won, and it's kind of a bit like uneventful. Like you're
anticlimactic, yeah.
It, and it's anticlimactic, and then. But yeah, most of the times you kind of know, like a lot of the times the other runner will let you know before the lap. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to do this one.
Has there ever been
start the lap and
has there ever been like a fake? Hey, I'm not going to do this, and then they go.
No.
So 28 minutes was your fastest lap. Now people talk about hallucination all the time. You were talking about kind of confused festival. Do you consider that a hallucination? Have you had real ones where you're lost?
I don't think I've had real hallucinations. Like I often see, like you'll see shapes and stuff. Especially when it's dark. But the thing is, I think this happens anyway. Like when you're not like 4 days without sleep. But you'll see something in the distance, like a tree or a log, and it might look like it's a person sitting there or something like that. But then as you get closer, you realize, oh, hang on, that's just a log, and that's why it looks like that.
That's happened to me
I kind of
when
get
I'm
those
like,
sort of things, and I think
totally not when I'm not like I thought it was a deer, but it's a bench,
Yeah,
whatever. Anyways, just keep
yeah,
going. Sorry.
yeah. So yeah, it does happen normally, but I think it probably happens a little bit more in backyards. But I think if you've got your sleep nailed and you've got your nutrition nailed, and you're not fighting any injuries or stuff like that, I think you kind of hold off on those hallucinations. I think those hallucinations start um, when there's something wrong with your nutrition or you're not getting enough sleep. And when I say enough sleep, like you're only getting 10 minutes at a time anyway. But I've been in events where I've been not hallucinating, but just confused about what's happening. It's like, why am I doing this? So I have to run to that point. I'm taking this tracker to that point, and then I'm going to turn around and come back. Okay, I get that I have to do that, but why? Like, what's the point of it? So it's kind of a bit like I'm just questioning like the whole system of the backyard. Like what is this concept? Why is this something that I like to do?
Yeah.
And yeah, you kind of question life a little bit, and it's like, but that's it. You just your muscle memory kicks in, and you just keep going. It's like, okay, well, the whistle's been blown, so I guess I'm taking this trucker back out to that turnaround point and coming back. Like, yeah, and you just get into it and you just do it.
Charlie, I want to ask about, because you mentioned sleep and nutrition. If you've got those nailed, what does that look like,
Yeah.
getting sleep and nutrition nailed on these extremely long for you? Is that 6 times 10 minutes? Or I don't know, what does the sleep piece look like? And nutrition, I'm
Yeah.
curious,
So
specific numbers about calories and carbs per hour, specifically, if you can share.
okay. So with the sleep, yeah. So I'll just sleep at night. So as soon as the sun goes down, that's going to be my first sleep lap. And the way that I do it is I'll run my laps quicker. And so I'm looking, when I say quicker, it depends on the course, but probably between 38 and 41 minutes, kind of in that ballpark. So I run in that, and then, so if I get, say, 20 minutes spare, that probably equates to about 15 minutes sleep when I've got, a couple of minutes before to kind of sort myself out to get into bed. And then I need to get up a couple of minutes early to get myself sorted before I get to the start line. I'm looking at about 15 minutes. So if all goes well, I'll get 15 minutes, and I'll probably do 9 of those in a night. So if I get 12,
Wow, that's
normally
pretty
I
good.
get 11 or 12 night laps, but 2 or 3 of those laps will be not sleeping. It'll be
But
focused more on eating.
but Phil, you're one of the top sleepers on tour, right?
Yeah, that's got to be better than the average, right? Because they don't all say that, right?
Yeah, so some runners will get by fine with like 2 or 3 minutes sleep, but for
Yeah.
me, I need that. I need as much
But
time as I can get.
it's a skill that you must
No,
have.
I
Like
think it makes you better. It makes you a
that's not
better.
that easy. Well, plus you're going a bit hard on those laps. Like it's pretty easy pace for you, but when you over time, like I mean,
Yeah,
and then you can just settle yourself down after a lap like that and fall asleep.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
would have such a hard time.
the first 1 or 2 nights, it's kind of a bit harder, and I probably don't sleep properly, but it's like it's just about going through that process, building that habit of that routine of coming in
Yeah.
and getting into bed and lying down, closing your eyes. And even if I don't fall asleep, I never put my pressure on myself to have to sleep.
Yeah.
I just lie down and close my eyes and meditate, and then sometimes I fall asleep, sometimes I don't. So in the first 1 or 2 nights, I generally don't fall asleep. A lot of the times it's a bit harder to fall asleep. But by the time you get to the third night, like you're that
But
tired that
you've
I'll come in
ingrained that
and
habit, right? So it's like makes it
yeah,
easier when you're there, right? Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I do that on every backyard, and even for those backyards where it actually starts at night, and you're only like 3 or 4 or 5 hours into it, and you're thinking that you don't need to sleep, because you're not going to be that tired yet. I still go through that process. I still have those sleep laps, and if I'm not sleeping, I'm still lying down, closing my eyes, and just zoning out, which is still beneficial.
And then
Um,
nutrition wise, can you
yeah,
share
so
kind of
nutrition,
what your plan
yeah.
looks like?
So I'm very lucky that I have a nutritionist that I work closely with. So I've been with her for a few years. She does all the numbers about, how many calories, how many carbs, how much sodium, how much protein. She runs all of those numbers and makes sure that they all kind of line up on my plan. So I couldn't tell you what that
So
Oh,
you,
consists
really?
you just
of.
eat what you're told. You eat what you're told,
I eat what I'm
and
told. Well, we kind of work together on it,
yeah, yeah.
and we kind of just look at the last plan, and it's like, well, what worked well, what didn't work well, and or I'll be like, I want to try something new, I want to try this, and we might put some different things in. And then there's other factors about, where is the event being held, like what facilities have we got? Have we got a microwave? When I went to Biggs, I could only have stuff where I could boil water, and add, those things which you just add hot water. So I couldn't have stuff which I microwave, or even sometimes it's hard to keep food cold. So yeah, there's all different things that you need to look at. But basically, I'll be eating every hour. So every hour when I come in, there'll be something for me to eat. Every now and then, there might not be something on the plan, but I would say probably 22 to 23 hours out of 24, when I'm coming in, I'm having something to eat.
And what would cause
Um,
there to not have something to eat?
just if there's like enough calories in the hours either side of it, or things like
Oh,
that.
okay.
And sometimes, like at night, like I might find it hard to eat at certain points. So at night, particularly probably between 2 and 6, I find it harder to eat. So that's probably where I might have a break from food. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it's more based to do with, just as long as the other hours I'm getting those required calories and carbs, which my nutritionist works out. But yeah, and then so the food, it might just be something little, like it might be like a little custard pouch, or it might be like 3 lollies, or like a small handful of chips or something like that. But then every now and then it'll be a bigger meal, like I might have 2-minute noodles, or I might have a burrito, or a ham and cheese wrap, or something like that. So it's kind of spaced out that I'll probably have a bigger meal maybe every 3 or 4 hours, and then in between it's just something smaller. But then also, to keep up my calories, I will take trail brew on the lap. So when I run the lap, I'll have a flask and I'll be drinking trail brew. And um, so yeah, it's drinking nutrition while I'm out on the lap, and then when I'm stopped, that's when I'm eating. I'm eating the nutrition.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hey, and the nutrition, it's real food as much as you can, and then like as much as you can, you eat real food as long as you can, generally.
Yeah. So I do have gels in there, and as I said, the trial brew. But with the gels, it might just be one, maybe two in a 24-hour period.
Okay.
And then yeah, so yeah, when I say real food, it's probably still like, packaged and processed stuff. But still, yeah, try and get some of the, like fresh fruit, and yeah, like ham and cheese wraps and things like that, which yeah, like those fresher foods. But again, that comes down to facilities, like can you store that food? Have you got a space to prepare that food, and things like that. So yeah, you just, yeah, work with what you got. But yeah, as far as like the gels and that goes, it'll, yeah, like they're good, and they work well. I, I'm not against having them, but yeah, I just have, yeah, maybe one or two in a 24-hour period. So I think they're a good kind of supplement to, sometimes you come in and you can't eat, you might not be able to eat a ham and cheese wrap, or eat, you know one of those bigger meals. But if you can have a gel and that's got a lot of calories in it, then yeah, take the gel, because it's just important you get those calories in.
So, Charlie, do you have more on race stuff? Otherwise, I want to take him to kind of motivational mental tips for
Yeah,
beginners.
no, I was gonna. The other couple things I'd want to ask him about is like what's next for him, and
Yeah.
how does he see the sport growing. But if you have other things,
No.
to,
Those are great questions.
So what's next for me is, I've got a bit of a break now. So I've had a pretty full on this year, full on um, thing for events and just crewing for that guy who's running around Australia, and I don't feel like I've had too much of a break. So my next event's not till April. So I've got a good kind of 4-month break.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I'll do that one. So uh, yeah, so that's the backyard in Sydney, and then 2 months after that, I've got a backyard in Queensland. 2 weeks after that, I've got another backyard in Karratha. Uh, I probably won't run that though. It'll depend on how I pull up from the backyard in Queensland. But I'll be going to it in some capacity, whether I volunteer or run direct or that's just a really great event that I got to go to last year, and they've invited me over again. So we'll see. I might run it. I'll leave the option open, but I'll wait and see. I
So
don't think
so
two weeks is going to be enough.
I was gonna say, like, so you can just do these 2 weeks apart, no problem.
No,
Or not
not
really.
normally.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah,
only be if I've pulled up really good, which
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like even the 5 weeks between these last two events, I wasn't sure if that would be enough. But then it turned out it was. So who knows? Maybe I will be
That's
able to run
interesting.
a good event 2 weeks later.
And Charlie, you asked about the future of the sport. Before I get to tips for first timers and the mental aspect, what do you think about the future?
Well, I do want to ask, like, I feel like from what I've seen in those couple documentaries where you were featured in, like that you're something to aspire to in terms of mental toughness for sure. But so yeah, so two things is yeah, tips for being mentally tough, and I'm curious about your thoughts on how, like, where the sport of backyarding is going to go, because it sounds like it's really popular in Australia and it's getting big, I think, all over the world. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's really blown up in popularity in the last kind of 4 years. There's just more and more backyards happening around the world. More people finding out about it. But in the whole scheme of things, it's still very niche. Like ultra running itself is a very niche sport. There's like we live in these circles where we talk to people who know about all these ultra running events and stuff like that. So it does seem like it's popular. But then you go outside of that, and there's so many people out there that don't even know that there's runs longer than a marathon. They think that the marathon is like the pinnacle of running, and if you can do a marathon, then you've like run the furthest that anyone has run. So it still surprises me that that's kind of the majority of people out there, yeah, don't kind of know about this ultra running. So yeah, ultra running itself is a very niche sport, and then even within the world of ultra running, there's still a lot of people that don't know about the backyard. So that backyard again is even more niche. So yeah, when I say it's blown up in popularity, it has, um, but yeah, it's nowhere near at the level of like the Boston Marathon or those big kind of marathon majors um,
Yeah,
or those events.
but
Like
Phil,
like everyone kind of knows about that.
I can see a future not that far off where this
Yeah,
is on ESPN and it's got a TV deal and you guys are paid like
yeah,
real professional athletes, and I think
yeah,
it's taking, if this was a stock, I would buy the
yeah,
stock for sure. For sure, I
To,
would
yeah,
to
buy
me, it's there's so
yeah,
much entertainment value. So let's say you would
yeah,
like have a and it live might not be the best, like, because 24 hours is a long time, but I know a lot of
yeah,
people were tuning into
yeah,
when Harvey Lewis and Ihor
yeah,
were trying to get that record there. Like, a lot of people were watching that live stream, but I think like you could even make a format where it's like a season, it's a season on Netflix or something,
30-minute episode
yeah,
like how the like the Formula One or the those types of
cycling, Tour de
shows, right?
France, the NBA one.
You can
yeah,
make a season of like one race,
yeah,
so I feel like that part could be very entertaining for like even just general public, right? Um,
yeah. Well, a lot of
but
events are live streaming on YouTube and stuff now, and that's kind of picking up in popularity. So yeah, a lot more events have got that. You've also got like more mainstream media coverage, like you're seeing it a little bit more, like it'll pop up on the news and in articles and stuff a bit more. But what I think the format works really well. Like if you were to put it on like a TV, like a live TV thing. I think the way it'll work is like say you have it on an SPN or whatever sports channel, and you just broadcast your normal daily, your normal daily programming. So you'd be showing some other sport, and then every hour you just have, okay, 2 minute update, what's happening over here, and you'll just show who's left, who's still running, and you just seeing that, 2 to 5 minutes at the start finish of the hour. That's all you really need to show, because you can see who's in it, you see how they're looking at the start. You don't need to show them out, follow them out on course. I mean, you can do some updates and highlights and things like that, but it's just the sort of thing, like you wake up, you're watching TV in the morning, you've tuned in to watch whatever it is that you want to watch, and then this other thing comes on, and you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's the Backyard Ultra? And you just see like this 2 to 5 minutes of
it would be
this
perfect for
thing.
the Olympics. The Olympics, when
Yeah,
there's like a million sports on and it's
it'll
going
never
all
happen in the
day,
Olympics,
and you
but
would just kind of
it
tune
would be really
in.
cool.
It'd be
Yeah.
perfect for the Olympics.
Yeah, because
Um,
people would be watching it in like 3 days' time and be like, hang on, is this the same event I was watching like 3 days ago? And then you're thinking like all the stuff you've done in the last 3 days, and
it
it's
would be
like they've just
perfect.
been running that whole time.
It would be perfect. Hey, Phil, we're running low on time here, and I have a bit of
Yeah.
a hard stop in a few minutes, but I definitely want to ask you. So a lot of people that listen to our podcast are on their own running journey of some sort. They've started out, maybe they just got off the couch, maybe they just did a first 5K, or maybe they're trying to do a half marathon.
Yeah.
You've done that, and now you're probably one of the mentally toughest people on the planet. What advice would you have to those runners? What general advice would you have to those runners, or any runners?
Just focus on consistency. So just make it part of your daily routine. Don't worry about how far you're going or how fast you're going. The important thing is you just get out that door, you put your running shoes on, and you just go out there. And even if you're really short on time, or you're really not feeling up to it, or whatever excuse is coming to your head, just get in that habit of putting on your shoes, going to the end of the driveway. And even if that's all that you can do for that day, then good on you. Turn around, go back inside. But you just got to build that habit and just focus on that consistency. I think consistency will just trump everything else every time. So you might get some, really, people that can run fast or run far, but they're not consistent with it. And if you go out there and you're just consistent, you're doing it every day, you're making it a habit, you'll have a lot more longevity in the sport, and you'll get a lot more out of it, and you'll just notice naturally over time you will get faster, you will be able to run further, and you will do better at it. So yeah.
I love it. Consistency. You sound like Charlie. You sound like my brother. Charlie, do you have any last questions for Phil?
No, that's it. I think. Well, I mean, I have lots, but we're short on time here. So
what we'll do, Phil, if it's okay, I love this. I have so much respect for you. I think what you're doing is unbelievable. I aspire to be you, hopefully one day. But I know that I probably won't be, because you're the absolute best in the world. So thank you for taking the time. Maybe we could get you back on next year, maybe after one of your next big races or something. We'd love to talk about this further. You're just an inspiration to all. So we haven't even gotten to all the tips that we want to get to, but we value everything that you shared with us today. So thank you. Thanks for coming on, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Phil, don't go anywhere yet, but I want to thank you tuning in. Podcast 5 stars. Tell your friends, tell your family. We are The Running Journey. I'm Rob Tatro. This is my brother Charlie. And remember what Phil Gore said today, guys. Consistency is the most important thing.